From Michael Jordan's underwhelming draft pick to Fran Vasquez not even showing up, here are the top NBA draft picks that absolutely flopped. Starting off with MJ's not-so-great pick, Kwame Brown. The man was called the next big thing by the greatest of all time. As head of basketball operations for the Washington Wizards, Michael Jordan picked Brown with the first pick in the 2001 draft.
The Washington Wizards select Kwame Brown from Lynn Academy, Brunswick, Georgia.
But that's not all. Jordan even came out of retirement to play with his new player, and also took a very tough approach to helping Brown improve his skills at the NBA level. According to the Washington Post, he even yelled homophobic slurs at his young charge while on the court, which is a bit excessive if you ask me. Of course, that plan didn't work, since Brown played 4 bad seasons with the Wizards before being moved to the Lakers. You see, Brown scored 10.9 points per game in one of his years in DC, a level he never reached again in his 12-year career, which also took him to Memphis, Detroit, Charlotte, Golden State, and Philadelphia. But he still managed to salvage his basketball career. In 2017, he joined rapper and actor Ice Cube's basketball league, Big 3, which is mostly made up of former NBA players. And his team, the Three-Headed Monsters, won the final game.
Get it going. Inside, nice look, Brown from Abdul Rauf as he threaded the needle.
Well, at least Kwame got a happy ending. But his lackluster signing was nowhere near Greg Oden dashing Portland's hopes. The year is 1984, and the Portland Trail Blazers needed a center. So they take Sam Bowie as the second pick instead of Michael Jordan. It was a mistake that came back to haunt the team when Jordan went on to win 6 titles. But in 2007, it looked like the Blazers might break the curse. The team picked Greg Oden from Ohio State with the first pick in that year's draft. He was a unanimous All-American, and he led the Buckeyes to the Final Four by averaging 15.7 points per game.
To come back, very difficult with all those operations, and right there is what you see he can do inside. He is so big and strong. He was beating up Juwan Howard, assistant coach.
But when the 2007-2008 season started, Oden couldn't play because he was required to have knee surgery at the last minute. In the 60 games he played in 2008, Oden averaged about 9 points, which was a slow but encouraging start. Things finally got going in November of 2009, but then Oden broke his kneecap. At the time, he was scoring almost 13 points per game, but he had to have knee surgery again a year later, and didn't get back on the game until 2013.
The drills he was doing, that man, he can really play. If he can get healthy, he's right on schedule, as Coach Post has been telling us, and he's happy to be out there.
Well, there goes nothing. Moving on to the next flop draft pick. Next on the list is none other than Anthony Bennett. When Cleveland had the top pick in the NBA draft for the second time in 9 years, the Cavs proved to be unlucky again. Anthony Bennett, a dynamic forward from UNLV, was the player they chose. Now, Bennett didn't do what many other high-pick busts do, which is to show some early promise before reaching a limit. But he did score about 4 points and 3 rebounds per game in his first year as pro. As a matter of fact, 4 seems to be Bennett's lucky number because that's how many seasons he played in the NBA.
Anthony Bennett gets it done on the inside.
Yeah, he gets it to the point where, sometimes you don't think he's close enough to extend off 2 feet.
As well as the amount of teams he played for during that time. At least the Cavaliers got Kevin Love when they traded him away in 2014. So why wasn't Bennett a good choice? Well, in Jason Lloyd's book, The Blueprint, former Cavaliers GM David Griffin says that Bennett's career never got off the ground because he wasn't a self-starter. Griffin also said that the problem with Anthony was that even though they didn't know it at the time, the kid had no desire to get through hard times at all. And when things got hard, he chose to quit. That shows he wasn't really meant to do great things in the NBA.
Wiggins taking it against Courtney Lee, flips it over to Bennett. A rim run and a throwdown. That was a freight train coming down.
Also, who remembers the painful ordeal of DeJuan Wagner? Even though high school basketball isn't as hard as professional ball, it's still a pretty big deal. Wagner was recruited by the University of Memphis, where as a freshman, he averaged more than 21 points per game, leading the team to an NIT title. This made Wagner think he was good enough for the NBA after 1 year of college basketball, and the NBA agreed. As a result, the Cleveland Cavaliers took him with the 6th pick in the 2002 NBA draft. Over his first 47 games games as a pro, Wagner averaged a pretty good 13 points and almost 3 assists. But then he got hurt badly and went through health problems. A deep knee surgery and colitis diagnosis meant his career was almost over before it started. From 2003 to 2005, he skipped almost all of the games. In 2005-2006, he didn't play at all because he had to heal from surgery to remove his colon. And in 2006, he stopped playing for the Cavaliers and joined the Golden State Warriors. But due to his recurring health problems, Wagner dropped more than 30 pounds and only played in one game for his new team. During the game, he got dizzy and the team bought out his contract. As a result, he was no longer in the NBA. Now, we all know that some of the best players in recent NBA history were picked right out of high school. They were superstars to be who decided to go pro instead of spending a few years in college basketball, which is the league's de facto farm system but doesn't really pay much. Among them are big names like Kevin Garnett, Kobe Bryant, and Dwight Howard. But another part of that small group of greats is Jonathan Bender. When the Toronto Raptors picked the Mississippi Memorial High School forward with the 5th pick in the 1999 draft, they probably thought they were setting him up for a long and successful career. You see, he had recently put on a show on a national stage by hitting a record 31 points in the McDonald's High School All-American game. And before the 1999-2000 season started, the Raptors sent Bender to Indiana in return for Antonio Davis. Bender gave the Pacers 7 partial seasons with little performance. But after only playing in 2 games in the 2005-2006 season, Bender, then 25 years old, had to quit early because of his painful knee problems. But to his credit, he decided that retirement wasn't for him. And in 2009, after 3 years away from the NBA, he joined the New York Knicks for one last quiet season. Speaking of having a quiet season, do you remember when Fran Vasquez didn't even show up? The thing is, not every good basketball player wants to play in the NBA, which is the best professional game in the US. In the early 2000s, the Spanish-born center was a rising star in the EuroLeague, which is played in Europe. At the end of the 2004-2005 season, he averaged 10 points and 5.4 rebounds per game. That was the best year of his career, which put him at the top of the list of all-time blocks in the EuroLeague. Safe to say, the Orlando Magic liked what they saw, so they picked Vasquez with the 11th pick in the 2005 draft. Now look, not every player chosen will become the next Michael Jordan, but at least every player here did something that very few people do. That is, getting paid a lot of money to play in the NBA. But not Vasquez. The Magic lost their draft pick on him because he never signed with the team and never played in the NBA. Instead, he stayed in Europe and kept playing basketball there. Well, I guess he didn't want to leave his comfort zone that easily.
Hernandez diving inside. Vasquez collects. And Vasquez finishes.
And with that being said, that's all from my end on the top NBA picks that absolutely flopped.